Measuring training is incredibly difficult. I think one of the first things that we've done in a very long time that provides true metrics for training is that we're finding now more and more of our clients are taking our training away from traditional e-learning and moving it to mobile, whether it be a BlackBerry or an iPhone or a Windows mobile device. And this is out in the public domain, so I can share a little case study. But Merrill Lynch, now obviously Bank of America, they had huge delinquency rates amongst their senior executives for compliance training. They were never finishing it on time, and half the time they knew that their assistants were actually logging in and doing it for them, which is rampant in the industry. And so we sat with them back in 2000. Sorry, Alison. So we sat with them.
Allegedly rampant.
So we sat with them.
In other markets.
So we sat with them and we said, look, what's the one thing that these guys have in common? And they were all carrying around a BlackBerry. So we took 3 of their compliance courses, e-communication, information risk and office behaviour, and pushed them out traditionally in e-learning. So the control group was 55,000 employees, but they picked 2,500 bankers and pushed it out to their BlackBerry device. And of the 2,500 that logged in, the average score was 1.5% higher than everyone else taking it traditionally. Now there's theories around that which I don't buy into any, but it wasn't fundamentally lower. They finished the work in cumulatively 35 minutes quicker, and no one took it at their desk. So in effect, you've got 2,500 people taking about an hour and a half of training away from their desk. And with that ROI, they looked at that and they said, this is an enormous amount of productivity that we're bringing back into the organisation. We're getting higher scores. Everything gets fed into the LMS. Why don't we start shifting more and more stuff into that medium? Now, mobile is not for everything, obviously, but performance support, compliance training, sales training, they're now rolled out to 19,000 BlackBerries and away it went. So we find tracking and measuring e-learning and a real impact very, very hard. But strangely enough, we've moved to a new medium and have found it quite easy.
It's one of the things that we'll touch on briefly is some of the things we've been doing, and a key part of my research project is that the companies are not just kind of takers of the research, but they actually provide a lot of the input to it as well. So 2 of the companies, their people have been working with us on a kind of a model on how can we start to look at how we measure it. I don't think we have even started to find the answers yet, but we've started the process of looking. And what we're very interested in is the current project ends this year, but we're working with the government, and we all know government dollars are as hard to get at the moment as anybody else's, so we're working on a follow-on project, and measurement business value is a key part of that follow-on project. So if we're successful in that application for funding, one of the things we want to do is to interact with this kind of a grouping and come back to you, say in 6 months, and say, okay, we've now got the project started. What do you want for measurement? Like before we even started looking at it, what are the kind of things that you would like to see us to look at? So in a sense, you can start to think about the research team, funded by the government as being part of your research as well as part of the company's research. So we'd love to stay in touch on that.
Johnny, I'd just like to add, just to sort of set the expectation level for everybody in the room regarding the ILA, I think it's important to recognise what it is that the ILA is about. And this as an entity is really only going for the last 2 or 3 years. We've been gathered together for longer than that. And what we have is a reasonably unique situation whereby you have government with its investment enthusiastic about investing in research and development because the Irish government wants to build a knowledge economy. You have a government agency, which is a subset of that, called Enterprise Ireland, which is quite far-seeing in how this might be applied to business. And then you have a group of companies that traditionally who operate in the same arena and traditionally compete, who've decided to set aside the competitive side of our natures and work together to see how can we collectively bring all this together for the benefit of the customer. But we're not suggesting that we actually have the answer. We're not suggesting that there even is an answer. What we're saying is we are on a path, we're on a roadway that we've decided and volunteered to embark upon, which we think will uncover some of the stuff that will help us produce better solutions for our customers and with our customers. To date, we've identified some, and interesting byproducts have fallen out of the cooperation between the various companies. We have, in fact, produced a project, a knowledge economy skills project for the Irish government running in Ireland at the moment. So that was something that came about out of collaboration amongst the companies. And we've also shared resources. It's something we didn't set out to do initially, but as a result of the collaboration, these are the kind of things that have emerged. So the point I wanted to make is that it's not that we really have a specific answer to a problem, but I think we have a reasonably rare approach to addressing what we see as years and years of issues that will need to be resolved, whether it be through deep R&D or practical implementation by companies. And we have that continuum within what's called the Irish Learning Alliance, just to contextualize it for you.
Just on the measurement, just two quick ones. There's a company called Capital Analytics. I can give you an introduction to them afterwards. They've got a really great technology around measurement. And they came from the measurement side and they brought it into learning, rather than being learning people and wanted to look at measurement. So I can introduce there to Jean. And the second comment is, Pulse Learning, we're headquartered in Kerry in Ireland, the Kingdom of Kerry. It's where all the smartest people of Ireland are from.
As I said earlier, he's not actually from Kerry himself.
We have unbelievable. We have a saying in Kerry, you don't go to business by making a profit. And what we try and do is we try and measure profit. You get as close as you can to the measurement of profit. So we've won some awards over the last few years, and it's been around, certainly the cost of the learning compared to other methods, but also can you get the product to market quicker? Can you get more sales? Can you get? And you're trying to measure it at the very end of the value chain. Sometimes when you're talking about induction type training, you almost said to yourself, you know what? Write it off. It's an expense. How can you actually, some types of induction, how can you actually say it's going to make an impact on the bottom line? But as you go up the type of training that you're doing, particularly on things like sales, you try and measure that profitability.
I just have a comment on the measurement. I'm sorry, it's kind of my pet peeve. So I think we get a bad rap when it comes to measurement in learning, because you'll have your business stakeholders come to you and say, okay, you got to show me the numbers. I'm going to pump $40 million into this learning organization. You need to tell me, what's going to work for me. But I think on the other side of that, though, shouldn't we be going back to the business to say, okay, you need to start benchmarking here. You need to start baselining where you are, because unless you do that, there's no way we can help you measure that. So I think there is an education on our part as a learning organization to go back to the business and say, sure, we'll get you some numbers, but give me the numbers first. Tell me where you are right now, and then we have a better way of helping you to attain that. I think the other thing then is not only return on investment, but your return on expectation to your business partners. What are they expecting to see? And sometimes I think we overcomplicate it or overwhelm them into what that ROI actually means. And sometimes it's a lot easier than that. Tell me what your expectations are. I might have 5 stakeholders and all of their expectations are different. Obviously you can't satisfy everybody, but certainly you can take that, align it back to the business objectives and help measure that way. Just one
and leveraging off of that too, just in my industry experience in the conferences we've been at, a lot of times we create our own nightmare. Many times if you've been successful, you've been in touch with the business leaders, you know the business issues, and anecdotally they won't even question it for the numbers after you've justified it initially. So just understanding that you're in the right direction and that you're communicating with the right folks. Metrics are needed, but we almost embed too much of an issue of that. So.